We start off in Abuja, where the federal government has rejected the label by the United States as a country of particular concern over alleged religious freedom violations, saying the move was based on misinformation and faulty data. While briefing journalists in Abuja, the Minister of Information, Mohammed Idris, said President Trump's threats of military action were unwarranted and misrepresented Nigeria's complex security challenges. Mr. Idris said this administration had made significant progress in tackling terrorism since taking office in May 2023. He said more than 13,500 militants have been killed, 17,000 suspects arrested, and more than 11,200 hostages, including women and children, rescued.
Nigeria, by our constitution, is a multi-faith, multi-religious country. What this means is that everyone is free to practice his or her faith of choice without let or hindrance. Sometimes you hear these arguments about the minorities being attacked. The policing system and the security agencies will not in any way, because someone is in the minority, say he's not going to be provided security or is not going to be protected by the security agencies.
Nearly everybody in this country knows that there is no deliberate targeting of any religion for persecution. There are factors. Sometimes when these terrorists go to attack, they don't go to attack because of the religion of those inhabitants of those communities. They go to attack for different reasons, largely economic. Some may be political, but it's largely economic. But then, ironically, some of those communities are inhabited by a particular religion. So now to use the faith of the inhabitants as the motive for the attack is totally off the mark.
Let's now bring in our State House correspondent, Femi Akonde, for more on government's reaction and response to this claim by U.S. President Donald Trump. Femi, the federal government says President Trump's position is based on misinformation and faulty data. Tell us more about how they're responding to the allegation.
They have also described it as a mischaracterization of Nigeria's religious landscape by external observers. And, you know, the government has gone further to summon all ambassadors and diplomats in the country. That meeting held this evening in the federal capital here in Abuja, where they made it clear that indeed Nigeria is a country of diverse religious groups, and at no time has one group persecuted another group, or is there a genocide in Nigeria as alleged by President Donald Trump. And it brings to question what data, you know, or what information President Donald Trump has for him to have come to make that kind of allegation. And it's good to see that, you know, the international community is beginning to stand with Nigeria on this particular issue. Of course, Nigeria is not shying away from the problem. The federal government agrees and acknowledges that indeed there are security challenges in Nigeria, and the government is working to tackle all of these. Even international organizations, and I think including the Global Terrorism Index, also reported that, you know, the security challenges, especially related to terrorism, has reduced in Nigeria over the past decade. There are a lot of data and statistics to show that indeed the government is getting results in its fight against terror. These results might not be as quick and fast as Nigerians want, but, you know, there is progress, even though slow, but steady. And that's what the government is now projecting. We have seen the Minister of Foreign Affairs, Yusuf Tugar, you know, in Germany, making a case for Nigeria. And it's good to see all of this groundswell of support for Nigeria against the claim of the U.S. President Donald Trump. And, you know, it's also, we also believe that with all of this, it's going to get the attention of Donald Trump again, and they would definitely reconsider their position. But one thing is clear, that we have also seen the government and the military swing into action, we are also beginning to see results. We have been seeing these results in the past, but we're beginning to see more results now in their fight against terrorism. We've seen some results recently in Maiduguri, in Kanu, and in other parts of the country, and everyone hopes that the government and Indian security agencies will sustain this momentum. Ambassador.
And Femi, you know, we've actually heard repeated calls to the president to appoint ambassadors and high commissioners to our embassies and missions the world over. What do we know about the federal government actions in this direction?
Well, it's something President Tinubu is considering. You know, he said that it's not easy. There's a whole lot to be done even before appointing these ambassadors. There's a backlog of monies owed in by some of these embassies. Some monies for renting, because some of the buildings occupied by these embassies are not owned by the federal government of Nigeria. They pay rents, and some of these monies have been owed over the years. There are a lot of backlog of monies to be cleared or debts to be cleared before, you know, ambassadors are appointed. And that's what President Bola Tinubu said that, you know, he has been doing. These things are not easy or just quick fixes like that, especially when you're dealing with another country and another government. It takes a lot of work through diplomatic channels to clear all of these things before ambassadors can be appointed. But you know, that does not also mean that Nigeria's embassies in these countries are not working. We have representatives from the Ministry of Foreign Affairs who do the job. You know, the ambassadors are just political appointees. Yes, they represent the government, but we have the trained diplomats who are those really doing the job and ensuring that, you know, Nigeria's diplomatic relations with all of these countries where they represent where they go to represent Nigeria, you know, are sustained and, you know, and strengthened. And well, it will also be good to see ambassadors appointed. But one thing is clear: ambassadorial appointments are purely political, because they are not career diplomats who do the job.
Femi Akonde, our State House correspondent. Well, thank you very much for that update for us from Abuja.